Hello, everybody. Welcome in. And the morale has improved a lot. The proxies are back. Liquidity is coming. Let's break down all the good news that explains where we're going to go to next, despite the fact that people tell you the world is going to end. It's not. So let's get into it. And I hope I have audio. I do. Great. And thank you as well to Sean Donnelly. Indeed has a K8. And everybody for coming. I hope I didn't miss anything so far. Let's get into the story. Now, I had to stage this one. So I'm still trying to decide with this new software where I put myself or if I even matter. Let me know. I'll stick myself in the bottom right-hand corner for now. But the story today is called Liquidity Incoming. And of course, this is not financial advice, just a guy on the internet. And shout out to Jonk6. This is a nice little piece of word here if I could read it. I finally treated myself to your fantastic Patreon in January 2025. I have to say, it's not only worth it financially, but mentally, I have no doubt. Actually, I'm going to kill myself here so I can read it. I have no doubt I would have likely sold a lot, if not most of my Bitcoin, Tesla, Sol, MicroStrategy, even my NVIDIA bags, if it weren't for your deep research and excellent guidance. Thank you so much. And by the way, 10% of people did sell from my informal poll on Twitter. They sold their Bitcoin. But I lost faith anyway a few times when I saw the big dips. But watching you and the boys in DCA and listening to your daily insights on Patreon has kept me extremely calm when others around me were losing their heads. Well, thank you for this. This is so important as well, just to always stay calm, have a plan, stick to the data. All the answers are always in the data, with, of course, some violent undulations, especially because we're invested in disruptive assets. Yes, you will get a kick in the teeth every now and again, but it's okay. The end game is where we're going. Let's get into the story today. Boom, slide number one. First of all, I'm going to talk a bit about, I'm going to start off today with TA, which is unusual for me. Normally I don't, but today I will. This was kind of uncanny. We did wick through level 5 on the ATR model, which basically tells you where support and resistance levels is, where sell and buy signals are. Not only did we pierce that kind of 82, 83K level, we went down on a candle to 78,000, which took many by surprise. But this is when people capitulate. It's when this support is broken. But remember, it's driven by market manipulators to liquidate you or the market players or whoever they are. And that's how it works. But then we clearly came back up, a violent rise to 95,000, fell back down again to 83,000 and shot back up right now as we speak. And as we speak, the price of Bitcoin is actually, it's gone up $400 since I started talking today. That's nuts. Bitcoin is it's fallen down again. It went to 90,500 and now it's fallen to 90,300, but we'll watch it carefully as we go. So that is the first piece of TA today. Next, top and bottom indicator. Everybody's asking, where are we with the top and bottom indicator? Is it game over? No, it's not. You can see very clearly we are still in that, this image, the indicator we have has 7 stages. It starts with a very cool blue at the bottom, and then it goes to like a aquamarine tealy color. I'm colorblind, so I don't know. Then it goes to some type of light blue, and then a lime green, and then a yellow, then an orange, then a dark orange, and then a red. We are in the orange stage right now, which is right after yellow. Now, what happens next, because people sometimes get confused, I added some other charts. Remember, the blue line is the Bitcoin price. The color line is the top and bottom indicator. And you can see in historic cycles, we do go to that red zone. And that's typically when things rip, absolutely go nuts. So to put things in perspective, I added 2 arrows to what will happen next before we get to the top. First is the darker orange color. That first arrow, that kicks us off to new all-time highs. The Bitcoin price at this stage will be north of $120,000. And then if things repeat the cycle of the past and there's no market manipulation, we hit the red zone. And that's when things move real fast in a very short window of time. Things can go up and down in the space of like 10 days or 2 weeks. So beware for that. And if you are subscribed to this channel, you'll be updated daily because I'll be here daily as well. So that's where we are. So still, we are not overheated by no stretch. We are in the middle of level 5. We have level 6 and 7 to go. So watch for that carefully. Also, Bitcoin mean reversion model is deeply oversold. That little green dot at the bottom shows you how oversold we are, even at 90,000. All-time high is 108,000. So this is typically what I call a kill zone. Well, good time to stack. You know, that 88K level and below, why not? And we fell even further than that. So anyway, we are going up from here. Now, what I will talk a bit about today is some of the good news that's actually happening. And let's get into some of those stories. First of all, Bitcoin balance on exchanges continues to fall. This looks a bit precipitous, but if you look at the date of the last print, Feb 25 to today, a lot has left the exchanges. This from Crypto Quant, but it gets even more extreme if you look at Coinglass. And remember, if you're looking at Glassnode, Crypto Quant, Coinglass, I subscribe to them all. They are all very different in terms of what they believe is on exchanges, depending on how they measure. But this one is kind of more of a dramatic picture, shows you the difference over the last year or so of how much Bitcoin is on exchanges. Now, per Coinglass, they have about 2.17 million Bitcoin on exchanges. Per Crypto Quant, there's about 2.4 million. And per Glassnode, about 2.3 million. So they're all different. But the point is, more is being sucked from these exchanges every single day. More is being bought up by the big players, the MicroStrategies of the world, the ETFs. The ETFs have been selling off for the last 2 weeks, but it is going to return back as well. The question we all have, though, is what happens next? What happens? You know, if you look at imagine this one here is 2.17 million Bitcoin on exchanges. It's down 600,000 Bitcoin in 1 year. If you calculate that on the withdrawal on a daily basis, that's 1,600 Bitcoin per day being sucked off exchanges, and that's 3.5 times daily issuance. So when you put things in that perspective, it does get pretty dramatic, ladies and gentlemen. So watch it. Will we get a supply crunch? I don't know. Is it likely? Probable, but it all depends on what's happening next. And that's why we're going to now look at trying to get an inkling as to what's coming. So global liquidity is up 5% year to date. And I know people will think, oh, 5%, that's nothing. Remember, this is all the liquidity on the planet. It means billions and billions and billions. It's huge. It's huge. And there's always a time lag between liquidity pumping and the Bitcoin price. But we have seen that the Bitcoin price is actually below where we began the year. Liquidity, however, has just been going up nuts, like 5.2% so far since January. And this measure doesn't happen fast. It doesn't move very fast. But when you look at this move over the past 2 months, that is very dramatic. If you annualize that, you're talking 40, 50%, which is very big indeed. Now, that's liquidity, but there's another aspect to this too. Global M2 money supply spikes again. There is a lot going on here. This chart just printed another straight up to the right line, and that's the yellow on the chart here. And this means if history repeats, every time global M2 goes up, risk assets follow. That's stocks, that's Bitcoin, etc. Now, the other thing to notice about this, and shout out to Colin, I think it's Colin Crypto, who put this chart together with all the great annotations, so I didn't have to build one. The S&P 500 is that bluey, tealy, greeny color. Bitcoin's in orange. Yellow is global M2 money supply. There is typically a 10-week lag between M2 money supply going up and then Bitcoin responding. And we are getting close to that 10-week lag, and that should hit in approximately 3 weeks from now, approximately March 25th. We're already, 10 weeks, 6 weeks into the cycle, 3-4 weeks left. So we'll watch this space carefully. Either way, March, as I forecast, historically, Feb and March are very good months for Bitcoin at this stage of the cycle, the 4th year of the cycle. It has not been the case. We had the worst Feb since 2014. which is unusual, which means March should be good. And there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes too. So that's a big part of liquidity. Remember, money makes the world go round. Increased liquidity, increased M2 floats all boats. So expect good things ahead. Do not be afraid. This is not the time to be afraid, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in other news too, China. Shout out to everybody in China if anybody watches from there. I'm not sure. But China have committed, I wrote a paper on this morning, have committed to, on Substack, have committed to boosting their GDP growth by domestic consumption. In order to do that, they need to flush the people's pockets full of cash so they can buy stuff. Again, don't overthink it. It's not hard. That means China will have a lot more money in their pocket because they need to get to 5% GDP growth this year. And when Xi makes a plan, they stick to it. And they don't care how much money they print. They don't care of the debasement of the yuan. All fiat's going to zero anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Just print away. And this is said to boost Bitcoin in their new fiscal stimulus plan. So who's ready for that? And again, that's just China. But China is huge. But also, it's not just China. Germany, Deutschland Auch, will also be spending a lot of money. And they also need to start reindustrializing their economy. They realize everything's ground to a halt. They've been crushed by the Chinese. Also, they need to build up their military because of some recent changes over the last week. And now the money printers in Germany and the ECB bond printing, etc., will go nuts. Same thing in Poland. Poland want to also get a lot more money to build up their military because they are on the border of you know what. Anyhow, that's the story. Money is coming from all over the place. We see it in the charts. We hear it from the big nations, and it's only a matter of time before the US follows suit. So that is the money printing news for now. There's also some other big news that's going to impact Bitcoin, and I believe it's part of the reason why Bitcoin is ripping right now today. We saw the proxies as well on fire. MicroStrategy is shooting up quite a bit. I saw $35 at one moment there. Yeah, it's up $35 today at 310, 12.5% in a day. Not bad. So the proxies are coming back to life. And yes, it's been brutal for the proxies in the first part of this year. But boy, do they spring back quickly. And we'll look at the NAV premiums in a minute too. But this is the big news that everybody should be looking forward to this Friday. And Friday evening, I think, is the actual event. They have a so-called crypto summit, crypto meeting at the White House. And this will maybe, we're not sure, but it'll talk about what the US government, the federal government, is going to do strategically around crypto, hopefully around Bitcoin mainly. And this was all spoken about on the political trail, campaign trail last year. And there's other people involved here, like the David Sachs, the Howard Lutnicks, and others that believe something big could be announced on Friday, and that's why things are looking very strong right now. We don't know what's going on, but what we do know, allegedly, some of the invitees you can see here, let me try to read some of these names, Michael Saylor, Bo Hines, Donald Trump, David Sachs, Brad Gerlinghouse, I don't know if he's confirmed or not. I still don't understand XRP, and a whole bunch of others. Mark Andreessen, Brian Armstrong. I doubt CZ would be going for some reason because, you know, he just got out of jail. That would be a bit of a bad look. So this is why I don't believe this list. I don't know. But some of these names are definitely going. We'll talk about some of those too. But why do we care? And the White House Crypto Summit apparently has some things that have been mentioned by Trump, some things that are made in the USA. I love this little Venn diagram. You got some that have ETF applications in place, like Solana, etc. And you have blockchain projects that are attended to visit the White House. You see there, Solana is excluded, and it has things like XRP in there. And I don't know what's real or what's not, but the point is some key players will be going there. And what they do with this strategic reserve for crypto, I hope it's just Bitcoin, keep it simple. If they're doing a sovereign wealth fund, why not put some disruptive crypto in there? But some of the names that they're looking at right now definitely are not. I consider them dead coins. And if you watch this channel, you know who I'm talking about. Now, another angle here, too, is from Secretary Lutnick. He believes that there's a Bitcoin strategic reserve coming in some form or another, but they're not sure what they're going to do with the other cryptos. It might just be kind of crazy FUD from last week. But hopefully we'll get some clear answers, and it won't be like the last press announcement from Sachs and others, which drove a lot of disappointment. People were hoping we'd have something specific around the reserve, but that did not happen. So we'll see. And this guy, Howard Lutnick, okay, he believes Bitcoin will be treated differently from altcoins in the US crypto reserve. Remember, he is a hardcore Bitcoiner, okay? He's the guy whose firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, actually manages a lot of the financial requirements for Tether. And Tether have a huge Bitcoin bag. So this guy knows Bitcoin. I think he'll be a big proponent of exactly what goes into this, whatever reserve it's going to be. I don't know. We're all speculating here, but hopefully Friday we get some clear answers. And speaking of clear answers, I know this guy will have one for the summit. And Michael Saylor was invited to the summit at the White House this Friday, hosted by the president. So Saylor will have his say, and he's been very politically correct when he's on TV talking about this crypto fund or whatever, but he knows there's only one pure hard digital asset. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And again, hopefully we hear something on Friday. Now, speaking of Saylor, I just decided to pull up his strategy dashboard because we saw MicroStrategy break through $300 for the first time in a while. And it's actually 310 now as we speak. So it's doing well today. That's the first point I want to call out from here. Also, happily enough, volatility is back. Implied volatility. Volatility is vitality. And part of that comes from the fact that this thing pops up $35 in a day, 13%. That's the volatility. There's not many assets this big that move that fast up and down every single day. And that's why the bond market loves it. Also, 1 year return for MicroStrategy. A lot of people must be late to the party because they're complaining about MicroStrategy, but the 1 year return is still 186%. It's even higher now because that was when the price was $300. But you can see the 3-month return is 20% down. Again, sometimes if you get late to a party, you turn up and all the drink is gone, and all the snacks are gone, the music's turned off, and the lights are on, and it's just not so fun anymore. But it will come back. We're seeing that today. I'll share more details on the proxies as well in a second. Now, these are the proxies. I'm going to turn off my little screeny doodle so you don't have to see me for this one as I try to read these numbers. But first of all, you can see the NAV premium for Marathon is back up to 1.23. That hit 1.06, 1.08 last week. Insanely low. 1.09 was like crazy. And here we are back at 123 and going higher. We have other names too. MicroStrategy is back up to 1.7 NAV premium. Remember, that fell under 1.5 a few days ago. So all these things are coming back. And the reason they're coming back so fast is because for many, it's the only on-ramp out there, especially when people are trying to move large amounts of money that are optionable and highly volatile into an event that's coming up this weekend, this Friday. So we'll watch this space closely. Now, speaking of MicroStrategy again, this is a stunning statistic that I kind of thought I knew, but I didn't think it was so much. But basically, if you look at how much the Bitcoin bond is in terms of convertible bond issues, Strategy is now the largest convertible bond issuer. It was in 2024, and it is again in 2025 of all out there. Year to date, 30% of the US convertible market is powered by Bitcoin. 30%. That's one player in a short window of time is now dominating a huge market. I can't stress this enough. This is incredible. It wasn't on my bingo card a couple of years ago when I first started investing in MicroStrategy. Anyhow, that's where we are. Now, another fun news of people who are stacking and doing stuff. Bukele was told by the IMF, who gave him a loan, said, you can get this loan if you do not buy any more Bitcoin. Uh, well, he said go pound sand, despite the pressure from the IMF not to, and he went back into buying again. And you can see that here on the El Salvador chart, there was a period of time where it was flat for a couple of weeks, and now they're back into buying one single Bitcoin a day, which is wonderful. And shout out to Nayib Bukele and their Bitcoin balance. Again, yet another example of treasuries. Right now, we only have like 70 companies around the world that are stacking Bitcoin. 70 out of millions and millions and millions of companies. We are so early, ladies and gentlemen. And Texas have now a new notice of intent as well. And this Texas deal here is a Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Bill, and it's on notice for intent today, which means it's something that they're hopefully planning to do if it gets passed. And Texas have made very clearly they want to become the Bitcoin capital of the world. And the US wants to become the Bitcoin capital of the world. Everybody wants to become the Bitcoin capital in the near future. What's going to happen? Because there's simply not enough Bitcoin to go around. So be interesting to watch what happens next, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of other players stacking, Metaplanet purchased an additional 497 Bitcoin for 43.46 million at a price of 88,938 per Bitcoin. They nailed the dip. Great job. Getting that sub 90K is pretty good. And they probably, I don't know how they did that, if they're doing OTC or otherwise, but that was a pretty good price when you're buying nearly 500 Bitcoin. Now they own 2,888 Bitcoin at an average price of 84K. And that is the top performing company in Japan, by the way, all from following the Saylor strategy. And speaking of Asian countries too, and not to be forgotten, Korea is joining the party at last. The Financial Supervisory Board is following Japan in reviewing Bitcoin ETFs for approval. And the Koreans, like the Japanese, are very, very prolific savers of money, and they will save their cash in Bitcoin. Again, we're still early, and I see nothing but good things on the horizon out there. And other fun news, Belarus. Shout out to our friends in Belarus there. They decided, guess what? They have a whole bunch of so-called excess electricity, and President Lukashenko has directed his energy minister to develop a Bitcoin mining infrastructure to leverage the excess energy that they have for additional revenue. Why not? And nation states are becoming huge players in the Bitcoin mining space. And we can see that very clearly in the data, because the largest public miners in the world are all in America, but they're finding it ever more competitive to compete, despite the fact they're growing hash rate like crazy. And this is the next little story for me today, my latest chart. This is the Bitcoin production by miners since June 2023. Remember, April 2024, we had the Bitcoin halving, but here you can see the majority of miners, their production is down, despite many of them actually increasing their hash rate. And in fact, if you crunch the numbers carefully, you'll see CleanSpark there's only 3 players that have actually grown in terms of Bitcoin production since June 2023. They are CleanSpark, up 27.5% in that time frame. Again, that's through the halving. So if you imagine there was no halving, they'd be up a lot more than that. It'd be more like, I don't know, nearly 100%. Iris Energy up 21%, and Riot, number 3, up 14.5%. All the rest are down 30% to over 75%, like Core Scientific down 75%. And that probably explains why they decided to get into HPC pivot. Anyway, I like pure play players that are miners. Anyway, we'll see where they all go. Either way, it's very competitive, and countries like Belarus getting into the mix with free energy will make it even more competitive for some of these miners going forward. We'll see. Anyway, moving on, final piece of the story, I think, today, as we get excited for Friday. This was kind of interesting from Crypto News. There was a new study by, I think, a venture capital firm called Epoch. Considering the name is kind of interesting, the Bitcoin Epochs. But it shows that cryptocurrency adoption has skyrocketed all over the world in the past 2 years. And I'm not sure of the reasons for this, but I'd imagine one are to get alpha. Number 2, concern about their fiat and debasing away, losing purchasing power. And they estimate about 824 million people worldwide own crypto in one form or another. That is 10% of the world's population. And the reason we care about that 10% is we know once we hit 10%, then the S-curve adoption happens. The next 80% happens real fast. So crypto, again, shows you, as I mentioned twice already, we are still early in this game. And I think the estimates are about 450 million people worldwide own Bitcoin. The other 350 million people approximately own other stuff. So it's big. And again, we're still early. So that's the story today. I hope you liked it. Little Bitcoin update. Thank you to everybody for coming here and all the people. Where am I? I need to blow myself up. All the people watching live and the moderators in the chat. And thank you once again, Sean Donnelly, K8, TNT Tesla, the whole team for being here. Hope I didn't miss any questions. Again, money is coming. Bitcoin price will go up. Just keep your seatbelt on. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.